Let's dive into Michigan's 2023 spring practice. The Wolverines have about 3.5 weeks left until the April 1st spring game. So now that we've got over 2 weeks of data and inside news and rumors, we're going to take you through what the 5 biggest storylines and takeaways we have on the players, the coaching staff, and what we can expect from the 2023 season. Now, if you haven't watched the show before, now is the time to subscribe because we told you last week, there's some talk around the office that the channels might go subscriber only this offseason, kind of, keep out some of the haters and the trolls, Ohio State fans. So nevertheless, I'll make you guys this deal. We are coming close to a milestone, 26,000 subscribers. You see there were 25,927, biggest audience, most subscribers. You guys know all that stuff. So 73 more. Had a meeting this afternoon with Jack and the production crew. We said, okay, if we can get to the number 26,000 by March 15th, which is what, 8 days away, Jack? It's a week from tomorrow, is that right? Week from tomorrow, 73 new subscribers. We will keep the channel, available to everybody this offseason. So subscribers are going to have to do the non-subscribers, a little bit of a benefit here. So if you haven't yet, subscribe, or if you want to help us grow, hit that next milestone, send the link to a friend. You see it at the bottom of the screen usually. It is youtube.com/Michigan TV. Of course, it's always down in the comments and the description of our video. So 73 more. Let's get to 26,000 by March 15th. All right, now we're going to talk my 5 little spring practice nuggets of information, things we've heard about, things we've confirmed, and things that are really just general rumors, but we've got some confirmation of where they're going on both offense, defense, and coaching. I think the biggest storyline this offseason is going to be who is going to be the other starting quarterback outside of Will Johnson. If you recall last year, of course, Will Johnson started as a backup, and then Jamon Green got injured in the brawl in the Michigan Stadium tunnel. Will Johnson kind of stepped in for him while Green was out, and then him and DJ Turner finished out the year as the starting cornerbacks, with Jamon Green kind of rotating in there as a third starting cornerback. Green and DJ Turner off to the pros. Michigan really no developed cornerback talent behind Will Johnson, so where does that leave this team? Potentially the only area of the offense and defense that doesn't have a proven playmaker at a certain position. I think it's going to be Amarian Walker. Amarian Walker has continued to shine. And frankly, I don't think Jim Harbaugh is going to do that because he wants to continue to light a fire under guys' butts, wants to make sure that there is competition. Also wants to make sure that other players that aren't name starters don't think that they're out of it. They should just start slacking off and not putting in the work. But Amarian Walker continues to shine this spring. He's exceeding expectations. And I don't know if it's crazy to say that by this time next week, maybe the week after, but I certainly think by the spring game coming up April 1st at the Big House, if potentially Jim Harbaugh doesn't say, look, he has put in the work, he's got the talent, and he proved it this offseason in spring practice while Michigan's been focusing on passing in the offense side of the ball, putting a lot more pressure on the secondary. Amarian Walker putting in the work and showing the talent that he could be the starting cornerback outside of Will Johnson. Will Jim Harbaugh name him a starter before the end of spring practice? Not crazy to think about. And we're hearing after a little less than half the spring practice, I think they put in 6 of 15 so far, he has cemented himself in the starting lineup for Michigan at cornerback. And he's the real deal, folks. Sheesh, I've been saying that. You guys know this. You're fans of the team. No surprise. Michigan's only real area of opportunity, area of concern is the punter, the kicker, and the second cornerback. I don't necessarily think that a punter or a kicker is going to make the difference between a championship and not winning a championship, but cornerback 2 could. Ohio State could potentially have a field day on Michigan if they've got weakness in the secondary. Amarian Walker, if he's the real deal, sheesh, is all I have to say. If you guys follow LeBron James, made it famous a few years back. All right, guys, we getting in a debate with a friend over text messages a couple days ago. Thought I'd settle it here on the show. Who was a better wide receiver at Michigan, Mario Manningham or Jeremy Gallon? Now, my gut says Manningham by a mile, but when you break down the numbers, there's a case to be made for both. So go ahead and type MM or JG. I'll make a case for both guys, just tell you where they stand, and you guys can let me know, kind of settle it with the votes down in the comments with an MM or a JG. So Mario Manningham, 3 years at Michigan, went pro after the 2007 season, a year early. 34 games in 3 seasons, 137 catches, 2,300 yards, 27 touchdowns. Jeremy Gallen played 5 years, redshirted, didn't get very much playing time as a redshirt freshman, not a little bit, but then as a starter his last 2 years, 89 catches. I'm sorry, that was in 2013. 5 seasons, 173 catches, 2,704 yards, and 17 touchdowns. So more catches, more yards than Manningham, of course, more seasons, but 10 less touchdowns. Now, for Gallen, he has the 3rd most catches in a career for a Michigan wide receiver, 2nd most in a season with 89 in 2013, and he's got 3rd most in a game. He had 14 in a game against Indiana. Also, 3rd most yards in a career for a Michigan wide receiver, most ever in a single season. That's 1,373 in 2013, and most yards in a game for wide receiver, receiving yards in Michigan history and in Big Ten history. 369 yards in a game in 2013 against Indiana. Quick case for Mario Manningham. 3 seasons, 2.5 as a starter. Number 6 career in yards. Number 3 in a season, 1,174 in 2007. He's number 4 all-time with 27 career touchdowns. And number 6 for 12 touchdowns in a season, 2007. So let me know. I'm going Manningham because I do think that Jeremy Gallen was the beneficiary of a terrible Michigan team in 2013-ish and a team that was down a lot, especially in the back half of the season, and had to get in shootouts. That's why Devin Gardner also up there in a lot of the passing records for single season, but overall didn't do much as a quarterback despite being a starter for 2.5 years. Give me an MM, give me a JG. For me, I'm going MM. Running back is certainly a concern without Blake Corum, without Donovan Edwards this spring. The depth at the running back position really hasn't had any positives so far through 6 or 7 spring practices so far. Guys in contention, CJ Stokes was the running back number 3 for the first half of last season, and then was he injured? Wasn't he putting in the time? Was he not making the right plays? He didn't really get a ton of time in the second half of the year, right? Walk-ons were getting snaps. Linebackers were getting snaps over C.J. Stokes. Kalel Mullings, Mr. Jump Pass himself, kind of playing linebacker, running back. I think he sees running back as the biggest opportunity for playing time, considering how deep Michigan has become at the linebacker position. And then 2 early enrollee freshmen, Benjamin Hall and Cole Cabana. No one is making a big enough impact for Michigan to think at any point that one of these guys is about to step up and be the running back number 3. We saw last year, the Illinois game, the second half of the Illinois game, Blake Corum goes down, Donovan Edwards already out, 2 injury-prone star running backs. That 3rd running back became the difference between an undefeated season and not for Michigan. So I'm very concerned of what it's going to look like if, God forbid, Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards ever to miss a game, but also in the future, which we'll talk about here in a second. Guys, you probably saw over the weekend, late last week, we're putting out a lot of NFL draft content. We sent Sam Brown, Tom Downey from the Chat Sports team out to Indy. Get all kinds of content, Olu Oluwatimi, Mike Morris, and others. So if you haven't yet, we put it on the YouTube community this morning. We launched a new NFL Draft show, NFL Draft channel. Can we get the Michigan Football Report fans and audience showing out there by subscribing? We're going to kind of monitor here at the company, do a little leaderboard. So do me a favor, if you want to follow the NFL Draft, you like the Lions, you like other NFL teams, I think you'll find interest in it, or just seeing where guys like Mike Morris and others, Ronnie Bell, etc., are getting slated in the latest mock draft. Subscribe to the new NFL Draft by Chat Sports YouTube channel. The link is right there, youtube.com/chatnfl. I'm also going to pin that to the bottom of this video, so just go right below the video, click on that pinned comment. The link is right there. Hit subscribe button. You will start getting more NFL Draft news from us here at Chat Sports. All right, I mentioned a little bit before the plug there of the NFL Draft channel is I am concerned about running back depth, not just this season, but long term, and also quarterback. It sounds like Davis Warren is, running number 3. He's challenging for that that backup quarterback position. But 3rd stringer from Indiana has come in and is probably going to be the backup quarterback, at least as we exit spring coming up here in 3.5 weeks. But what does the running back position and the quarterback position look like after JJ McCarthy, Blake Corum, and Donovan Edwards? If all 3 of those guys leave after the 2023 season, Michigan better get hell of aggressive in the transfer portal, because I don't think the players that can even win 8 games are currently on this roster heading out of the 2023 season into 2024. But as far as this season, JJ McCarthy's having himself a great spring. I think a couple of things happened towards the end of the season that really turned out to be a benefit for Michigan moving forward. Not necessarily maybe at the time. Number one, Ohio State figured out Michigan's running game in the first half, which forced JJ McCarthy to be more of a passer. Number two is then TCU was up by 18 points in the first half, forced Michigan to pass the ball a ton, was down basically 2 to 3 scores the entire second half. Michigan had to air it out, gave McCarthy more confidence in himself, gave the coaches more confidence in McCarthy, and guys like Cornelius Johnson, Roman Wilson, much better in the deep passing game than they were the entire season. Not to mention the tight end position got some deep passing games. So McCarthy has put the pressure on the coaching staff and also, just his greater wide receiver room is that we can and should. We've got the talent, we've got the ability, and do we have the game plan from the coaching staff? Have a better downfield passing game. He's putting the pressure on the coaches. Guys, let's go deep more. Let's go deep more. Coaches really don't have a choice right now because the starting 2 running backs are out this spring, is that they're giving J.J. McCarthy the opportunity to air it out. Cornelius Johnson has a ton more confidence coming out of that Ohio State game. And so what's happening is that the air raid offense that Michigan's just trying out this spring may turn out to be a big benefit when it comes down to a playoff game that they haven't been able to get over the hump of the past 2 years. So I'll ask you guys this question. You know the stats for J.J. McCarthy. Nowhere near 3,000. What do you have? Some like 2,500 yards passing, Jack. 3,000 yards passing in his junior season this year. I'll put that as the over-under. Give me an O if you think he's going to go over. Give me a U if you think J.J. McCarthy in his third year, his junior year as Michigan's quarterback, will go under that number. O for over or U for under. The defensive depth on this team is great. It is, frankly, I don't want to say unfair because we saw what TCU did to them in the college football playoff game. But Michigan is wildly deep at a number of positions, and if they get that cornerback too, figured out, sheesh, as I said just a moment. Michigan's backups has been rumored, maybe this is an exaggeration, is that the Michigan backups who, think about the linebackers. Their linebacker backups could be Nikhil Green, who's a starter in fall for Michigan last year, and Ernest, what's his last name? Hausman, whatever his last name, Hausman, the transfer from Nebraska, starter for Nebraska as a freshman linebacker. Those are likely your backups this year, okay? So Michigan's backup defensive team could be a top 25 defense, their second team. But what I am most concerned right now is the lack of star power on the defensive line. Now, I told you in the show a couple days ago that I thought Mason Graham breaking out on the defensive side of the ball might be the difference between making the national championship game this year and not making it. Hell, maybe even winning a Big Ten championship or not. But I am concerned a little bit with the lack of star power because you've had star power for the last several years. Of course, I don't have to mention all the names, Aiden Hutchinson, et cetera, David Ojabo. Kris Jenkins, Mason Graham, Rashaun Benny are going to be the guys on the interior. On the exterior, on the outside, the edge, I still am calling for Josiah Stewart, the Coastal Carolina transfer, and Jaylen Harrell, a starter from last year, to be your starters. But they're being pushed by Derrick Moore. They're being pushed by Braiden McGregor, who got starter reps from time to time last season. But one or more of those guys, I really think it's got to be Mason Graham on the inside, and then I don't know who. Is it Josiah Stewart? Can you put up those same stats? Come over to Michigan, come over to the Big Ten. Michigan needs some stars on the defensive line. Tons of depth across this entire defense. The defensive line star power, the guys who can step up, make stops when it's needed, or harass whoever Ohio State's quarterback is, whoever Penn State's quarterback, Drew Aller, likely, whoever they face in the postseason. I'm looking for one or two star players to step up on this defensive line. Let's talk about the offense, some new offensive play calling. I've said this several times, so if you've seen previous shows, I might just be repeating myself here for a second. But the offensive play calling is getting pretty exciting. I'm going to talk about that more in a second. But before I do, did want to remind you that I am always available on Twitter if you want to tweet at me, see what I'm talking about, Michigan, Ohio State, college football, or just general things in my day-to-day life that I want to observe on. So go ahead and follow me at James Yoder on Twitter. I'll put the link down in the comments and the description. Non-stop Michigan football content. And I was also last year voted number one person on Twitter to follow for Michigan football news and rumors. Voting committee was my mom. Nevertheless, votes count, so follow me at James Yoder. Let's talk about the spring practice offense. No running backs. So what does Michigan do? Just hand the ball off to C.J. Stokes for 1 yard every time? No, they're going to try and perfect parts of the games that Michigan struggled at times throughout 2022. Number one is Michigan is going to implementing more complex, deep passing routes. Cornelius Johnson, but maybe more importantly, Roman Wilson are going to be the deep threats on this team. That should be no surprise. But what happened last year is when Michigan went deep, it was just run as fast as you can, as far as you can, I'll throw it. And I think they're going to be a little more complex this season. Next up, with Matt Weiss out as quarterbacks coach and co-offensive coordinator, the red zone offensive play calling, which has been kind of a disaster Jim Harbaugh's entire career at Michigan. If they're not inside the 5 or 6 yard line and can't just run the ball in, they struggle to score touchdowns. Michigan is trying to put in a more aggressive passing game, more importantly, inside the red zone heading out of this spring practice. So implementing more complex, deep passing routes, and then the red zone passing offense, more importantly. Now, last but not least, as we head into the back half of this spring practice, I did want to note that I've heard from multiple people that Jim Harbaugh, to his coaching staff, and now as we're getting into practice 7, practice 8, and beyond, his players, is emphasizing where he and the other coaching staffs think that they came up short against Georgia and against TCU. Right? Where are those places? I don't know the answer to that. What I'd ultimately say is the passing game and the interior defensive line going up against TCU and Georgia's offensive line is where I think Michigan struggled last year, is making those points of emphasis big this spring as they move into the summer. The players know what they need to focus on, and they can hit fall camp in early August, ready to potentially have a third straight Big Ten championship, but this time break through, head to Houston. Houston or bust, right, Jack? Houston or bust. So with Houston or bust being the mantra this year, give me a prediction for Michigan's record this year. 2023 season went 12-0 in the regular season last year, 13-0 if you count the Big Ten. But just give me a record prediction for the 12 games on the schedule right now. Clearly, I think Penn State going to Happy Valley and then at home against Ohio State at the end of the year are the two biggest games. I'm going 12-0. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. One more reminder for you. If we can hit 26,000 subscribers by March 15th, which is 8 days away, we will not go subscriber only. So we're sitting at 25,927. Need 73 more. If you're already subscribed, send that link to a friend who loves Michigan football. Have them join the biggest Michigan football community on YouTube. It's youtube.com/Michigan TV. I'll be back in a couple days with another Michigan football report video. Until then, go blue.